Hi everyone, this is Anita Ladhani. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and an energy practitioner. And today's talk is about the healing power of our pets. So if you've owned a pet before, whether it's a dog, whether it's a cat, whether it's rabbit, whatever the case might be, there's something amazing happens when you actually are fortunate enough to have a pet. Now, I've had dogs growing up ever since I was a little girl growing up in India. And I was very blessed to have animals in my life. When we moved from India, we adopted a kitten that grew up, and then we had cats. And we were lucky enough to have, animals that grew old with us. But, I've also had where once I had kids, my children were allergic to the animals. And so I've had to also deal with that piece of it. So I want to talk to you about the practicality of owning a pet. As long as you know that you're not allergic to animal dander, animal hair, animal whatever the case might be, as long as you know that whoever living in your home is not allergic to it, I strongly encourage you to get an animal, to get a pet. Now, where do you adopt a pet? You can adopt a pet from your local shelters. I think that's a great place to get an animal. You can always buy one, but I think, be careful. Don't go to the puppy stores. I think that's the worst place you can get a pet because they're sourced and there's so many ethical reasons why you should not get a puppy or a cat or animal from a pet puppy store. I would encourage you to, either go to a personal, someone who breeds at home, or preferably get an animal from the shelter, because there's so many animals out there, pure breed and puppies, that are given away every day. Now, there's a responsibility that comes with the pets that I want to talk about. Pets, just like human beings, need medical care. So there is a cost attached to it. But usually there are cheaper ways, especially if you live in the West. You can sign up for health insurance for pets, which is actually quite reasonable when you look at the bigger cost. You can get them from the animal shelter, and usually you can get discounted, health care. You can actually, like, I know Pet Supermarket has, very low cost vaccinations, but there is a cost associated with having a pet. You can't just get a pet and not give it the health, regular shots that it needs annually. If you're getting a little puppy or a kitten, there's certain costs associated with neutering or spaying of the cat or the dog. It's important to do that because once the animal goes into heat, I'm getting into a whole lot of different stuff, but irrelevant. I'm not going to talk about that right now. Just know that there's cost associated with that. Also, make sure that you have time to spend with the animal. Now, I've had my dog for 8 years now, and I literally, I have a King Charles Cavalier. She is the sweetest thing ever. Where did she go? She's here somewhere. She's sleeping. She's sleeping on her little thing. She's 8 years old, and at this point, she's completely deaf, okay? And because she is older and her personality is more reserved and more calm, she sleeps all day long, which is fine. But then there are other dogs. I have other friends who have dogs that are very hyper. And, your personality, the dog's personality or the cat's personality, well, cats are a whole different, let's not even touch cats right now, are a whole different animal. So when I went to go get my puppy, I actually found a breeder online that was selling, she wasn't really a breeder, but she had these puppies, and I was lucky to find them through a mutual friend. And I went looking for this, King Charles Cavalier are like Cocker Spaniels. So I went looking for this beautiful tan, gorgeous little, puppy with these cute little waggy ears. I call them their ponytails. And when I went there, and the woman gave me the little, and literally my puppy was like this little when I first got it. This little puppy that I supposedly went to go get was way too hyper. she just couldn't sit still. She was like, da, 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 ADHD puppy galore, right? She was jumping all over the place. And I was just looking at her going, way too much energy. So the woman saw my face and she goes, she has a little sister and I think she might be better for you. So I was like, okay. So she brings this little runt. I call her a runt because Annie was just this big fur ball. And she was just like not the cute little puppy that the sister was. But the minute she gave her to me, I looked at her and I literally just put her in my lap. And Annie just sort of looked at me and smiled at me and just sort of curled up and sat down. And I was like, this is love at first sight. Like, I'm like, oh, you're coming home with me. There was no doubt. And I remember Annie like was sitting right here. She was literally this big. Now Annie is about 28 pounds, 27 pounds now. I'll post a picture of her. She's black and tan and she's absolutely the sweetest, sweetest, sweetest thing ever. The most gentle thing ever. I mean, she's been the biggest blessing. And I got Annie around the time that I was actually going through some serious depression. I was isolated, family was traveling. They were away for business. I was away from family. And I can't tell you, I realized every time I would pet Annie, then my breathing would change. Literally. I would pet Annie and Annie loved to be pet, but my breathing changed. And it was just the most comforting, the most, the sweetest thing ever. Dogs just love you unconditionally, but you've got to love them back. You've got to provide them nurturing, and just like kids, I think there's a way to discipline and discipline and train dogs. I was lucky where I had a neighbor that was a big dog person. So she sort of trained me how to train my puppy. And also by that time I was a mom, I already had kids. I'd already had dogs. I'd made mistakes with dogs. So with Annie, it was all positive reinforcement instead of like using a newspaper and sort of scaring her. I just, gave her little treats of when she was doing things right. And it was very simple, like this. I don't think I've ever really, had to spank Annie or whatever. But again, the personality matches, right? So now I've had cats. Let's switch to cats. Cats are amazing. But cats, and there's this whole, myth that cats are not loving and not affectionate. Couldn't be further from the truth. I've had cats on and off for how many years now? God, since I was like 15, 16 years old. And cats are very independent. Okay. I wish I could have a cat now, but I kind of don't want to get sign up into getting a cat. Cats don't need much. Sure. You don't need to take them out for a walk. You don't need a backyard if, you're too lazy to do that. You just need a litter box and you need to clean it regularly. You need to give them, dry food is always better than wet food for any cat or dog. But cats are so sweet. My cats would, had the biggest personalities and every cat had her own little personality and they'll come and snuggle with you and they'll purr and they'll come to you when you're sad. And, my cats, when my mother would be praying, in the morning or meditating, the cats will go and like sit and be part of that. It was just so sweet to see. And when they're mad at you, cats will let you know. I remember, when we would go away on a trip and we would leave the cat alone, because again, you can do that. Enough water, enough food. And we would come home and the cat was mad because you left the cat alone for a week and there would be a nice little gift for us, AKA cat poop, in the middle of our bed. Because she wouldn't pee, because cats are very smart. When cats pee out of their litter box, that's usually because they're sick, because they usually don't do that. But yeah, she would leave a little, or she would vomit right in the middle of it saying, or hairball, be like, oh, here's a gift for you. You left me alone, here's a gift for you. Just the biggest personalities. But again, get an animal. I think animals are amazing. But be responsible for them. Be ready to commit to them. They do take time. They do take money. They do need to be taken, to the vet. They do have to get regular grooming done if it's a dog or a cat, depending on, what you're having, if you can do it yourself. They do need healthy, good food, but most of all, they do need your attention. They need your time. So, if I know I'm going to get plenty of comments, I did see some. Let me see what someone posted. Connie said, "I have 4 dogs, 2 rescues, 1 born to my family, and 1 from a breeder friend of mine. I keep their regular vet visits. They are my BFFs." I completely agree, Connie. So yeah, if you don't have a pet, and if you don't have any health allergies and issues, and if you can, afford to have one, time-wise, money-wise, health-wise, I strongly urge you to consider getting a pet. And I'll tell you, there's something amazing that happens when kids are raised with pets. I think it just allows them to care for someone. It teaches them compassion. It teaches them, just to be loving. And again, animals don't speak, but the language of love transcends actual spoken language. And kids pick up on that. And so I think, it's a wonderful, wonderful idea. But again, be mindful of the commitment, because it is a commitment, right? Anyways, I hope this has been helpful. Love and light. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.